The mashed potatoes sat untouched on my plate as I watched my brother hold court at the head of the Thanksgiving table. Marcus had that look again, the one where his eyes glinted with barely concealed contempt whenever they landed on me. So, Emma, Aunt Patricia leaned forward, her wine glass dangling precariously. Still teaching those little rugrats. What grade is it again? Fourth, I said quietly, cutting my turkey into precise squares. Same as last year. Marcus snorted. He actually snorted. Real professionals don't work with children, Pat. Emma's basically a glorified babysitter with a college degree. The table went silent for exactly 3 seconds. Then Dad chuckled. Mom looked down at her plate. My sister-in-law Jessica touched Marcus's arm, like he'd said something charmingly controversial rather than deliberately cruel. I pulled my laptop bag closer to my chair and continued eating. I mean, think about it, Marcus continued, warming to his theme. He always did this at family gatherings, found a way to elevate himself by diminishing everyone else. I spent 8 years in graduate school studying the human mind. I work with senators, Fortune 500 executives, people with real problems. Emma teaches kids to multiply fractions. Someone has to, I murmured. Sure. He waved his hand dismissively. It's noble work, like volunteering at a soup kitchen, but let's not pretend it's a career for serious intellectuals. Jessica beamed at him. She always beamed when he was being particularly awful. Marcus just took on 3 new clients this month, all C-suite executives dealing with high-stakes decision fatigue. How wonderful, Mom said, and I could hear the genuine pride in her voice, the pride that had never quite materialized when I'd earned my doctorate in education, or when I'd been promoted to department chair, or when my research on childhood literacy had been published in 3 peer-reviewed journals. I opened my laptop quietly, while Marcus launched into a detailed description of his practice. The mahogany desk he'd commissioned, the view from his downtown office, the $450 per hour rate he charged. I've had to turn away clients, he said, shaking his head with practiced humility. There's only so many hours in a day, you know, quality over quantity. These people trust me with their mental health, their careers, their marriages. My fingers moved across the keyboard, pulling up the folder I'd been compiling for 6 months. It had started accidentally. A former student's mother, who worked in university admissions, had mentioned something odd about Marcus's transcripts during a parent-teacher conference. She'd seemed uncomfortable bringing it up, but professional ethics had compelled her. I'd spent the next half-year following every thread. The pharmaceutical companies want to sponsor my research, Marcus continued, but I have to be selective, maintain objectivity. It's a delicate balance when you're at the top of your field, the top of his field, with a doctorate from Stanford that didn't exist, with a master's degree from Columbia that had never been issued, with undergraduate psychology credits from UCLA that belonged to a Marcus Thompson, different middle name, different birth date, different person entirely. I'd found the real Marcus Thompson on LinkedIn. He was a retired accountant in Portland now. He'd been very confused when I'd called him. Emma, are you even listening? Marcus's voice cut through my concentration. I looked up. Sorry, just answering some work emails. On Thanksgiving, Jessica's voice dripped with performative sympathy. That's so sad. Don't they give teachers holidays off? Department chairs have year-round responsibilities, I said evenly. Marcus's expression flickered, just for a second. Most people wouldn't have caught it, but I'd been studying human behavior too, just in 8-year-olds instead of CEOs. I knew what a micro-expression of panic looked like. Department chair, he said slowly. Right, for the elementary school. For the university's College of Education, actually. I oversee curriculum development and faculty credentials for the entire teacher preparation program. I kept my voice pleasant, conversational. We take academic integrity very seriously. Fake transcripts, forged credentials, that sort of thing can destroy careers. The flicker again. Longer this time. Well, obviously, he said. That's why institutions like Stanford have such rigorous verification processes. Absolutely. I attached the first file to my email. The registrar's office is very helpful when you know the right questions to ask. Marcus reached for his wine glass. His hand was steady, but I noticed he drained it in one long swallow. Dad started talking about the football game. Aunt Patricia complained about her neighbor's holiday decorations. The conversation moved on, the way it always did, flowing around me like I was a stone in a river. I attached the second file, a PDF of the real Marcus Thompson's academic records. helpfully provided by UCLA's alumni office. They'd been very thorough. Jessica was describing their recent vacation to Napa Valley. Marcus needed the break. The stress of maintaining a private practice. People don't understand the toll it takes. I can imagine, I said softly. I attached the third file, a notarized statement from Stanford's registrar, confirming that no Marcus Allen Barrett had ever been enrolled in their doctoral program in clinical psychology. The fourth file, Columbia University's identical statement about their master's program. The fifth file, detailed timeline of my investigation, including dates, sources, and verification methods. I'd been meticulous. 6 months of phone calls, emails, records requests. I'd used my position as department chair to access inter-university verification systems. I'd contacted the American Psychological Association's Ethics Committee for guidance on proper reporting procedures. They'd been very interested in my findings. "Emma, you're being awfully quiet," Mom said. "Everything okay?" "Fine," I said, just composing an important email. I typed carefully in the subject line, "You Argent, fraudulent psychology credentials, formal complaint from Dr. Emma Barrett, Department Chair, State University College of Education." The body of the email was already drafted. I'd revised it 17 times. "Dear members of the State Psychology Licensing Board, I am writing to report a serious case of credential fraud that directly threatens public safety. Marcus Allen Barrett, license #PY40, 7293, is currently practicing clinical psychology under falsified academic credentials. My investigation has revealed 1. No doctoral degree from Stanford University, verified by Registrar 2. No master's degree from Columbia University, verified by Registrar 3. Undergraduate psychology credits fraudulently obtained using another individual's academic record 4. 8 years of clinical practice, with vulnerable populations under false pretenses. Attached, please find complete documentation, including official university verification letters, timeline of fraudulent claims, list of current clients, obtained from Mr. Barrett's public marketing materials, notarized statements from records offices. As an educator responsible for maintaining academic integrity in our teacher preparation programs, I believe I have both a professional and ethical obligation to report this matter. Mr. Barrett's clients, including individuals in positions of significant public trust, deserve to know they are receiving treatment from an unlicensed practitioner. I am available for any additional information you may require. Respectfully, Dr. Emma Barrett, Ph.D., Department Chair, College of Education, State University. Marcus was laughing now, telling some story about a client who'd paid extra for weekend sessions. Jessica hung on every word. Dad nodded approvingly. Mom smiled that distant smile she always wore when Marcus was around, like she was already imagining the grandchildren he'd give her, the successful life that would reflect well on her parenting. My finger hovered over the send button. I thought about the senators Marcus had mentioned, the CEOs, the people making decisions that affected thousands of lives, while being counseled by someone with no actual training in psychology, someone who'd learned everything from books and imitation, who'd been playing doctor for 8 years with no oversight, no ethical guidelines, no accountability. I thought about the real Marcus Thompson in Portland, whose identity had been partially stolen, about the students in my program, who worked multiple jobs to pay for legitimate degrees, about the teachers I trained who spent years earning credentials Marcus had simply invented. I pressed send. The email whooshed away. Somewhere in the state capitol, an automated system was already routing my complaint to the investigative division. By Monday morning, someone would open those attachments. By Tuesday they'd begin making calls. "More wine?" Jessica asked, reaching for the bottle. "No thank you." I closed my laptop and finally took a bite of my cold turkey. It tasted fine. Marcus was still talking. "The key to effective therapy is establishing trust. My clients know they can rely on my expertise, my years of training. That foundation of credibility is everything." "I'm sure it is," I said. He glanced at me, and for just a moment, I saw it, the uncertainty behind the bluster. He knew something had shifted. He just didn't know what. The football game started. Dad turned up the volume. Aunt Patricia fell asleep on the couch. Marcus and Jessica left early, something about a Saturday morning session with an important client. "Drive safe," I called from the doorway. He paused, hand on his car door. That comment earlier, about fake credentials, what about it, seemed oddly specific. I smiled. I deal with accreditation issues all the time. It's always on my mind. Have a good evening, Marcus. I watched his Tesla pull away, then went back inside to help Mom with the dishes. My phone buzzed around midnight. An automated response from the licensing board. Your complaint has been received and assigned case number 2025 to 1847. An investigator will contact you within 48 hours. I set my phone down and picked up the stack of 4th grade essays I'd brought home. 23 students writing about what they were thankful for. Messy handwriting, misspelled words, honest thoughts about family and pets and video games. One caught my eye. I'm thankful for Miss Barrett, because she says even small people can do big things. I smiled and wrote in the margin, you're not small. You're exactly the right size for being 9. And yes, you can do big things. Monday morning came. I taught my classes, met with faculty, reviewed curriculum proposals. Around 2 p.m., my office phone rang. Dr. Barrett, this is Investigator Williams from the State Psychology Licensing Board. I've reviewed your complaint against Marcus Barrett. We need to discuss next steps. I pulled out my detailed notes. I'm happy to help however I can. Your documentation is extremely thorough. We'll need formal statements from the universities, but your preliminary work has given us everything we need to suspend his license pending investigation. How long will that take? The suspension. We're filing the emergency order this afternoon. His clients will be notified by end of business Wednesday. The full investigation will take several months, but given the clear evidence of fraud, we're treating this as a public safety priority. I understand, Dr. Barrett, your brother won't be able to practice in this state again. You understand that, yes, and you're prepared for the family implications. I looked at the framed photo on my desk. 23 4th graders grinning at the camera on the first day of school. Behind them, inspirational posters about kindness and integrity. I'm prepared, I said. Wednesday evening, my phone exploded. 17 missed calls from Marcus, 8 from Jessica, 4 from Mom, a dozen texts I didn't read. Thursday morning, the local news ran a story. Prominent psychologist's license suspended in credentials fraud investigation. Friday, Marcus showed up at my office. He looked different without the armor of arrogance. Smaller, tired. You destroyed my life, he said quietly. I looked up from my computer. You destroyed it yourself. I just documented the evidence. I've been practicing for 8 years. 8 years, Emma. I've helped people. Maybe, or maybe you've been experimenting on vulnerable people without proper training. We'll never know for sure. I studied everything. Read every book. Attended conferences. That's not how professional licensing works, Marcus. You know that. He sank into the chair across from my desk. What do I do now? You could start by actually earning a degree. You're clearly intelligent. It would take time, but I'm 43 years old. I went back for my doctorate at 38. I closed my laptop. It's never too late to do things the right way. He laughed bitterly. The babysitter gives the psychologist career advice. The department chair gives the fraud helpful suggestions. I corrected gently. But you don't have to take them. He left without another word. The semester ended. Holiday cards arrived from former students, now scattered across the country in their own teaching careers. 3 had included notes, thanking me for maintaining high standards, for showing them that integrity mattered more than shortcuts. I hung them on my office wall, next to my framed degrees and teaching awards. In January, I got a final email from Investigator Williams. Formal charges filed. Permanent license revocation. Criminal prosecution pending. Thank you for your cooperation. I archived the email and pulled up next semester's curriculum plans. Marcus never did go back to school. Last I heard, he was selling insurance in another state. But every Thanksgiving, when the family gathers smaller now, quieter, I think about that night. The moment I pressed send. The choice between comfortable silence and uncomfortable truth. And I'm thankful for 4th graders who taught me that doing the right thing matters, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard.